It's pretty strange. I've been playing violin for 20 years, and you play Bach from the time you're 6 on. I teach violin now. I teach little ones Bach, and yeah, he's kind of one of my musical soulmates. So I'm going to turn this off. It's kind of cool, right? Like, I see some heads bobbing. That's good. Okay. So, that was not wrong. Unfortunately. So I chose Bach for a couple of reasons. I have a little thing I wrote out here. Just to give you a little background for people who don't know, since this is like maybe primarily writers and readers here. Bach was born in 1685 and he died in 1750. The Baroque period ends in 1750 with Bach's death. Like, he died and everyone was like, that's it, we're done. We can't do anything better than what this man has done. Usher in a new era. And he was considered a master and a genius, and still is, obviously, who was far ahead of his time. Theorists are always finding new things in Bach, sort of like maybe Shakespeare, where people are just this never-ending academic and artistic sort of digging that you can do. Let's see. He was incredibly prolific. He spent most of his years on this earth being a church composer all over Europe, and he was super in demand, which I think is maybe one of the reasons why he's so great at what he does, because he wrote an entire mass once a week, which like modern composers write like a mass a year, maybe, if that's what they do. So he was just like practicing constantly, writing nonstop. The ideas never stopped coming. The BWV is a way to catalog Bach's pieces, because there's so many. He has over 1,100 different pieces of music, ranging from things I can teach a 6-year-old to things like what I'm going to play a little bit of for you today, which is a never-ending study. So with that, I'm going to talk about the Bach chaconne. A chaconne is a piece of music that is based on variations. So there's a set of chords that's laid out, and then they use the same chords as the bass and write melodic variations over the top of it. It's sort of like having a looping pedal before the technology existed. I studied this particular chaconne for about a year solid when I was in my undergrad in music school, and it's huge. I really love sharing it with people, but it takes up like 20 whole minutes to play the whole thing, and I am not as well practiced as I should be with it right now. Bach's chaconne in D minor is the 5th and final movement of his 2nd partita for unaccompanied violin. A partita is kind of like a sonata. There are 4 movements before this, and the 5th movement is larger than the first 4 movements combined. So it's really unequal, and most of his partitas are really equal. So the chaconne really stands out in his collection of work, and people think that it is a trombeau, which is for tombeau. It's a French word. I don't speak French, but tombeau, which is a Baroque and classical era composition that commemorates the death of an influential person. So tombeaus were usually written for kings and queens and nobility, but when Bach returned from several months abroad for work in 1720, he came home to the news that his first wife, Maria Barbara, had died, and he was grief-stricken, and he took the next 3 years to write this piece as a tombeau for her. And 3 is sort of the magic number here. This whole piece plays with 3s. To start, the piece is in 3/4, which is 3 beats to a measure, I guess. Sorry if I'm talking down to anyone who already knew that. And there's an emphasis on the 2nd beat. So what that means is normally there's like 1 first beat, 2nd beat, and 3rd beat. But in a chaconne, the emphasis is always on the 2nd beat, and so it goes like this: 1, 2, 3, if you're visualizing the beats. Anytime Bach uses 1, 2, 3 in any of his music, he's talking about the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. He's super religious. Not something I share with him, but something I can totally appreciate. Another way that this piece is in 3s is it's a triptych, so it's set up in 3 parts. I'm going to play for you the very beginning. the first, I'm going to play it not plugged in. The very first iteration of the chords you'll hear, and then I'm going to give you a couple more lines. So that's the very first chords. Everything from that point forward is repeated on top of those chords. It's sort of like if you're in a jazz combo and they're repeating the chord progression over and over and you're taking like a super hip, really long solo. So the first part is in D minor, which is the key of grief. The second part is in D major. It's actually a major mode, but for our purposes, we'll call it D major, which is the parallel key, and it's happy, and people who talk about this kind of thing sort of just have decided that the major section is him reflecting on his nice times with his wife, his good times. So I'm just going to play for you the measure right beforehand that's in the sad part going into the major part. So you can hear that it doesn't quite sound like just one violin, and if I was playing it better, it would sound much more like more than one violin. I'm going to now play for you where it goes back into minor. So the very last part, it returns to the beginning, and I'm going to do the same thing, so there will be like a couple notes from the happy section going back into the sad section. Play for you the very last part, because you are good listeners. You will recognize it from the very beginning. It's palindromic in that way. It comes back to the beginning at the very So that's Bach for you. Let's see. So I'm an only child, and I've spent so many years, so many hours playing the violin by myself late into the night, and so I really am drawn to music that sounds like there's more than one violin, and I'm going to attempt to play you this great part that is a really good example of how it sort of starts to sound like there's multiple instruments going on at once, even though I am the only person on the stage. I chose this piece for this event because I'd actually already written it with the chaconne in mind. I'd already used the chaconne as a basis for this piece. It's called Awe, So This Is How It Feels, and it's my combo to the world. It's about the end of the world. And it's in chaconne-inspired fashion. It's based around 8 bars of music that loops continuously, which you may have heard already. It's also a triptych. Like the chaconne, it starts in a minor-ish sounding mode, moves to a happy moment, and then comes back at the very end and kind of wraps it up. The violin solo in the middle is also variation-based. So, all this fuddy-duddy stuff. I don't know what I have. So I hope you like it.